The tracks in the snow weren't there an hour ago. He was sure of it. Ranger Jake Calloway had walked this trail 100 times. He knew every tree, every ridge, every frozen creek crossing. But these tracks, large, deep, perfectly spaced, were new. He stopped, listened. The forest was completely silent. No wind, no birds, nothing. Then he saw them. 3 pairs of amber eyes watching him from between the pine trees. Unblinking, patient, and they weren't running away. Jake Calloway had been a Yellowstone park ranger for 11 years. He was the kind of man who preferred the company of mountains to people. Quiet, methodical, completely at home in one of the most wild and unpredictable landscapes on Earth. It was February, deep winter in Yellowstone. Temperatures had dropped to -25 overnight. A storm system was building over the western mountains. His supervisor had suggested postponing the patrol. Jake had laughed it off. He'd worked worse conditions than this. He knew this park better than anyone. He signed out at 7 a.m., loaded his truck with standard supplies, emergency kit, flares, radio, 2 days of rations, and headed north toward the Lamar Valley, the most remote and wolf-dense region in the entire park. He had no idea he wouldn't make it back to that truck. The blizzard hit without warning at 10 a.m. 1 minute visibility was clear. The next, the world turned white. Snow so thick and fast that Jake could barely see his hand in front of his face. He turned immediately to head back to the truck, but the trail had already disappeared under 6 inches of fresh snow. He kept moving, using his compass to maintain direction, but the wind was picking up, gusting to 60 miles an hour, driving snow horizontally, stripping heat from his body faster than his layers could retain it. His radio crackled with static, no signal. The storm was killing his communication. After 2 hours of fighting through the blizzard, Jake stopped. He didn't recognize anything around him. The trees, the terrain, the slope of the ground. None of it matched what he knew. He pulled out his GPS. The screen was blank. Battery dead from the cold. Jake Calloway, 11-year veteran of Yellowstone, was lost, and the temperature was still dropping. He found shelter as the light began to fade, a rocky outcrop with a natural overhang that blocked the worst of the wind. He gathered dead branches, built a small fire using the emergency kit, and assessed his situation. 1 night in the open in these conditions was survivable. 2 nights without rescue was not. He was melting snow for water when he heard it. Not a sound exactly, more like the absence of sound. The forest around him had gone completely silent. No wind through the branches, no creak of frozen trees, nothing. He looked up and saw the eyes. 3 wolves at first, then 5, then 8. The Lamar Canyon Pack, one of the most studied wolf packs in Yellowstone history. 14 animals in total, ranging from 80 to 120 pounds each. They had picked up his scent in the storm and followed it for miles. Now they sat in a loose semicircle beyond the firelight, watching him with a patience that was more terrifying than any aggression. Jake knew wolf behavior. He knew they rarely attacked healthy adult humans unprovoked, but he also knew he wasn't a healthy adult human right now. He was cold, exhausted, and alone, and wolves are extraordinarily good at reading weakness. He kept the fire burning through the night. Every 30 minutes he forced himself up to gather more wood, moving carefully, never turning his back fully on the tree line where the wolves waited. They never came closer than 20 feet. But they never left either. By 3 a.m. the fire was struggling. The wood he'd gathered was running low and the storm had soaked everything within reach. He made a decision. He had to get more wood, or the fire would die. And if the fire died in these temperatures, he would be dead before dawn. He grabbed a burning branch as a torch and moved into the trees. The wolves shifted silently around him, repositioning, maintaining their distance but staying between him and the open ground. They were herding him, testing him, looking for the moment his guard dropped. He worked fast, snapping dead branches, dragging fallen logs, making 3 trips back to the outcrop with his arms full. Each time the wolves moved with him, each time they got fractionally closer. On his 3rd trip back, he slipped on ice and went down hard. In the second it took him to get back to his feet, he heard the pack move, a collective shift in the darkness, faster than before. He got up, held the burning branch high, looked directly at the nearest wolf, a massive gray male, the alpha, and did something counterintuitive. He took 1 step toward it. The wolf held his gaze for 3 long seconds, then looked away. The pack settled. Jake walked back to his fire and didn't leave it again until dawn. First light came at 6:47 a.m., gray and dim through the thinning storm. Jake had survived the night, barely. His fire had burned down to embers. His core temperature had dropped dangerously. His hands were showing early signs of frostbite. The wolves were still there, sitting in the snow at the edge of the tree line, steam rising from their breath in the frozen air, watching, waiting. Jake made his decision. He couldn't wait for rescue. His radio was dead. His GPS was dead, and nobody knew exactly where he was. He had to move. He stamped out the fire, packed what little he had, and started walking south, back toward the valley, back toward the trail, back toward any chance of being found. The wolves followed. For 4 miles through the snow they tracked him, always visible, always at the same distance, never threatening but never leaving. It was as if they were escorting him, or studying him, or simply waiting to see if he would fall. He didn't fall. At 9:15 a.m. he heard the sound of a snowmobile. He fired his last flare into the gray sky. 2 minutes later, his supervisor broke through the tree line on a rescue sled, eyes wide at the sight of Jake, frostbitten, exhausted, barely standing, with 14 wolves sitting silently in the snow behind him. The wolves watched the snowmobile leave, then turned and disappeared back into the trees. Jake spent 3 days in hospital. Mild frostbite on 4 fingers, hypothermia, exhaustion. He was back on patrol 6 weeks later. He never filed a wolf incident report, because technically nothing had happened. The wolves had never attacked, never threatened, never done anything except follow a lost man through the snow for 1 very long night. But Jake knew something that the paperwork couldn't capture. In that moment when he slipped on the ice and the pack moved, in that fraction of a second before he got back to his feet, the outcome of that night had balanced on a knife edge. He still patrols the Lamar Valley, still sees the Lamar Canyon pack regularly from a distance. And every time he does, he stops, watches them, and remembers that February night when 14 wolves decided, for reasons known only to them, that he wasn't worth the trouble. He's never quite sure if that was luck or something else entirely. 1 ranger, 14 wolves, 1 night in the most remote wilderness in America. Jake Calloway didn't survive because he was stronger than the wolves or faster than the storm. He survived because he understood the wild well enough to respect it. And because in the most terrifying moment of his life, He chose to stand his ground instead of run. If you want more stories like this, subscribe. A new one every single day. And watch this next. You won't sleep after it.